Welcome to another episode of Magic in the Metroplex. Today's guest, we have Howard Hale, the owner of the Magicland Magic Shop in Dallas. How you doing, Howard?
Nice to be
have
here
you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Tell me about your background a little bit. You were a clown and you're a magician, and now you own a magic shop and you're world-renowned and international known. Tell us about it.
I started, I guess, about the same age that most performing magicians nowadays have started, about 11 years old. And I used to save bus money and ride downtown Dallas and go to a shop called Douglas Magicland. And 11 years old back then and 11 years old now is a big difference. I remember peeking over into the counters, petrified of all the stuff in the showcase, and would mow lawns and vacuum and all kinds of stuff to earn money and go and buy magic tricks. And in junior high, a friend and I decided to form a group of clowns. And we didn't really know what we were going to do or anything about it. And went and bought some makeup at Magicland and bought a few magic tricks and put together some skits and still didn't know what we were going to do. Went to Scottish Rite Hospital and some of the in-outpatient clinics of the area hospitals and just did skits and shows.
Was this for free?
Yeah, this was all for free. It was just something to do on Saturdays and Sundays.
Well, Scottish Rite's a good cause.
Yeah. We had a good time. We usually went twice a year and got to where we would put on like a whole hour performance with skits and magic shows, and eventually the 2 clowns became 8, and we had a little group of clowns. Well, after everybody graduated and goes off to college, that was the end of the clown troupe. But I still had the magic tricks and started doing shows at college and fraternity and sorority events and that type of stuff. And eventually the magic just started growing and more. What had happened, as a clown I learned pantomime quite well. My clown character didn't talk, and so I relied on the face. And as I began to understand what kind of a magician I wanted to be, you know, there are all different kinds of magic. You can be a close-up magician, you can do grand illusions that you put pretty ladies and lions and tigers in, you can do sleight of hand. All these different categories. Eventually I decided that what I liked to do was the classical kind of magic, the manipulation.
Club act, I guess.
Yeah, like a club act. And in that type of act, you usually don't talk. It's done to music. And so the face and the pantomime and how you communicate with the people is really important. And all of the clowning indirectly helped that. Of course, I didn't know it at the time.
Were you a mime kind of?
Yeah, I was just primarily a mime, and I learned it. Yeah, a little of that. Mostly what I did is try to figure out how to do the trick without talking. You know, if it's a rope trick and you have to explain to the audience what the rope trick does, how do you do that without talking? So that all eventually led to what I do now. I used to, on Saturdays, work part-time at Magicland for Gene Jeffries, the previous owners. And eventually he became retirement age and put the business up for sale, and my wife and I never even considered buying it. And kind of one day we went, well, what does it take to buy a business? And so we talked with him and went to the bank and did everything, and now 6 years later we're just rocking along real fine.
Now that's Gene Jeffries, was that what his name was?
Yeah, it was owned by we're the third owners of the business. Delbert and Lyle Douglas owned the business from 1911 to 1970. Magicland is the oldest magic and novelty shop of its type in the United States. I mean, 1911 was a long time ago.
I remember hearing about it being advertised like in comic books, you know,
Yep.
in the back of it, and he would...
Boy's Life and Popular Mechanics, it would say 500 tricks, 10 cents. And you'd go, wow, I'm going to get 500 magic tricks for 10 cents. And what you get is the catalog. Then to order the tricks. And, you know, back then, our society wasn't as mobile as it is now. And most of the magic business was done mail order. You know, if you lived in Arlington, you never got to downtown Dallas. And so everybody knows Magic Land from the history. Then Gene Jeffries owned a magic shop up in Oklahoma City, sold that business, and moved to Dallas in 1970. And he owned Magic Land from 1970 to 1983. And I had worked for him part-time on weekends, and I helped him out at Halloween.
To help pay for your magic addiction at that time.
Exactly.
Everything went back into the shop, so he didn't mind paying.
Just about did. And then my wife and I bought it in 1983. The business used to be in downtown Dallas. It was one of the old broken down buildings and had a lot of history and heritage and creaky wooden floors. And
that was on Irvay?
Yeah, it was on Irvay.
Is that the original location for Magic Land?
Well, no, not actually. There used to be two of them. Back during the 20s, they were on Commerce. There was a location in the Baker Hotel, which is no longer around, and was the retail operation. And they sold practical jokes and a few tricks. And then down Commerce was the main magic part of it, which was 100% mail order. And the Irvay location across from the old post office is the one that most people remember. Because even then we're talking, oh gosh, what, 60 years ago. So that touches most people that remember Magic Land. The business now is out in North Dallas. We're in a new shopping center, more than twice the square footage.
Well, you can say the address, you know, the street.
Okay.
It's legal.
We're at the intersection of Forest and Marsh Lane, which is a busy part of Dallas. Big major shopping center, more than double the square footage that the old location used to be. And traditionally, magic shops have the problem of staying a little old-fashioned, just because of that's what we are as magicians. We tend to use props that are old. And what we did when we moved is we said, let's take the old idea of a magic shop and turn it into what people expect a retail store to be. And you know, we have modern fixtures and there's carpet on the floor, and we carry a lot more than just magic. We have all kinds of joke items and gag gifts. We have a full theatrical department. We rent costumes for Halloween.
It's big business.
Yeah, it's big business. And coming up too, October's just around the corner. We have you know, a full line of theatrical makeup. Everybody that works for us has theatrical or magic background. A customer comes in and they may not know anything about magic, or they may not know anything about makeup, and you've got to be able to help and work with that person. The next person that comes in could be a seasoned pro. And so it's real important to have the atmosphere of the store where you can help everybody. And that's one thing we try. I think we do a pretty good job at it.
And not intimidate anybody.
No, try not to.
Tell me a little bit about your current, you know, and your past award winnings. I know about your biggie. I'll go ahead and let you tell us all about the gold medal and the act that you're fixing to do later on in the show, which is that act. So, so don't go away.
We, in the magic world, there are competitions, contests. Virtually every state, every city, all over, all the time, has magic clubs that hold competitions. And I worked up an act about 10 years ago that back then was relatively unseen. 10 years ago, we were in the disco phase, and everyone wore jumpsuits and tennis shoes and sequin bow ties and that type of stuff.
Leisure suits.
Yeah, leisure suits. Yeah. And I came up with the idea of an act based on the classics in magic, meaning the effects that are the quickest recognized and the easiest in effect, and combine those with classical music. And 10 years ago with the disco beat going, that was pretty radical. And didn't really have a showcase for this act. It's not the type of act that you take into somebody's living room and perform for a birthday party. And it doesn't work real good in a hotel banquet room. So I had an act, didn't have any place to do it. And found out that the clubs in the different society of magicians throughout the United States hold competitions. So I went, ha-ha, there's where I take it. and I got real lucky real quick. I competed at the Texas Association of Magicians convention, which was just held at the Tarrant County Convention Center 10 years ago. And I not only won in my category, I also won an award that hadn't been given for 10 years. It's called the Best Act of the Convention. And it's an award that's offered every year, but it's not given, only when an act is extra good.
Superior.
And so I won that, and that instantly led to a booking at another convention. And then that led to a booking at another convention. And I suddenly started going across the United States, meeting other magicians and getting input on the act. And met some people from Europe and got pointed in the right direction very quickly with the act. Had some people do critiques on the act saying, don't do it this way, do it this way.
That helps.
Yeah, that helps a lot. Otherwise, you know, we practice magic in our living rooms, and you work up an act, and until you get some feedback from it, you don't really know what it does. And if you only do a show once a month or once every 6 weeks, it's real tough to refine an act. And it's taken 10 years to work this act to where it is.
But it has got there, and it's the Gold Medalist Award.
The International Brotherhood of Magicians is the world's largest organization of magicians. There are about 25,000 members. There are chapters all over the world. And every year they have a big international convention that lasts, 4 or 5 days. There are stage shows and close-up shows and lectures and seminars, and then they have a competition. And in that competition, they have different categories that you can enter. And in a way, it's similar to the Olympics. There's an elimination round. Back in 1985, I entered, and there were about 60-plus competitors. They went from 60-plus down to 6 in one judging. Got rid of everybody. And then those 6 of us are put back up in front of an audience again with a whole new set of judges. At that point, the first, second, and third places have already been decided by the previous competition. And the only reason this other show exists is for this new set of judges to decide, do we give this gold medal of excellence?
Oh, it's kind of like the best.
Yeah, it's like the best act. Or at a state fair, it's the best of show. And just like at a state fair in the quilting department, if there's not a quilt that is extra good, they don't give the best of show. So the IBM has the same type of situation. The award program was started in 1980, and they have only given the gold medal 3 times over that time period, and yet every year there are at least 6 acts competing for it. And that then led to bookings virtually everywhere. I've been to Germany, Austria, England.
With this particular act?
Yeah, with this particular act. And the more exposure you get internationally, the more ideas you get, and hopefully the better you get. And so far I've been real lucky. It's great to travel, and you meet people in Germany that come to the United States to the conventions, and they're so glad to see you. And being an international act means being music. And I use classical music, so it works instantly.
Well, we're fixed to go to that act and have you get up there and do it. Howard Hale, thank you very much for coming on here. And we're fixed to take a break and go into Howard Hale's International Gold Medal Best in the World Magic Act and a teaching segment at the end of the show. We'll be right back. Welcome to the teaching segment of Magic in the Metroplex. I have a very special trick for you today. It's a trick that means a lot to me because it was one of the very first tricks that I learned and my grandfather taught me. I was about 11 years old, and this is something that he showed me. He wasn't a magician, but it was something that his dad had showed him. It's a very old trick. It's called chewing a string together. First, you take a piece of cord and tie one knot in it. That's not a very nice looking knot. Come on. There we go. Much, much better. So you only have one knot in the whole loop. Seems easy enough. Trim off all the excess here. And then you find the center, double the loop over, and find the center of the knot. Where's the center of a loop? It's right in the middle. I'm not a comedian, of course. Okay, you find it and cut the string right like that. So you have two pieces of string. By doubling it up, it does cut it into two pieces. And it gives you pretty accurate pieces as well, because sometimes that's a problem of finding the center of the rope and getting it cut exactly the same. Then you place it in your mouth. And the rope magically heals itself up. Kind of an interesting effect. Magicians are always cutting up people and strings and putting them back together again. It's our nature, I guess, cutting people up or tearing things up and making them whole again. Okay, how this trick is done, and once again, a good magician never reveals a secret, so don't you be a good magician and don't reveal a secret. I'll go ahead and take this piece out because that is the gimmick piece and it's making me talk funny. It's kind of wet too. But what you do on this particular effect is when you double it over, I'll go ahead and cut the excess off first. So when you do the doubling, that motion right here, you double it once and twice. So it's like a figure 8. And when you pull it together, you have a double loop there. Right in the middle here. It's doubled. So when you cut it, pull this over so you can see it a little bit better. So when you cut it here, there's a little piece of string is just wrapped. You hold it right like that. It looks like two pieces of string, but actually it's a whole string. It's making a loop just like that. Okay. So when you put this in your mouth, now this is recommended for children probably over 5 years old. So what you do is when you put it in your mouth, you pull the string off of the loop, or the loop off of the string like that, and the piece that's left in your mouth. Very simple trick. It does take practice, and be very careful when you do the trick, because you will have a piece of string, and you might have to swallow it at some given time, so try to avoid that if you can. Until next time, see you later.